He's continued to say over and over again, this is a Democratic hoax, this is a Democratic push. But right now, you got folks on both sides of the aisle that just want to see the receipts. Show me what's in there. If there's nothing in there, we can let it go.
The names of high-profile politicians and celebrities who associated with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein are now public. This after a New York federal judge unsealed hundreds of pages of court documents linked to Epstein and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Our chief legal analyst, Rhodes, is joining us. And this has been a big fight to keep these documents sealed. It's not the case this week.
You have high-powered people that are involved in these cases, so they have normally high-powered attorneys that are attempting to do everything they can to keep it sealed. They kept it sealed as long as they can, but at some point you got to release it. Unless it's a document that's protecting national security, then you will kind of keep it sealed a lot longer. But in this case, these are just regular individuals, not national security documents, not putting anybody at risk, just putting their personal lives and things that they were doing with an individual that is alleged and convicted of doing some very sick things that put them in connection with him. And so you're talking about high-powered people like the former presidents of the United States on that list, people in entertainment, both movie and music. And so that list has people that can pull strings across the board. And so I am not surprised that it took this long to come out.
So what's going to happen with some of these names? Because 40 documents released out of 250, more names may come out. Some of these names we already knew about. Is there protection there? I'm sure no one wants to be associated with this.
I was going to say no one wants to be associated with it, but I think the top two that you can point to is former President Clinton, and you can point to the former President Trump as if he needed anything else on top of his mounting legal issues. I don't think currently there'll be any pending, criminal investigations that will lead out of this, because if it would have been, you would have already seen it happen. However, any damage that would have come out from this with his name attached to it from his base won't hurt him. But those folks that may have been undecided, I don't think that he can attach himself to any of those individuals with the connection to this. Even though it was known, seeing it on paper is something totally different.
Welcome back. Time is 7:43. The federal government's report on Jeffrey Epstein is causing plenty of controversy this morning. The report released Monday from the Justice Department and FBI says Epstein did not have a client list. The investigation also confirmed his death was a suicide. No further charges are expected to be filed in the case. The agencies reportedly found no evidence the convicted sex offender had kept a list of high-profile people he blackmailed or conspired with to victimize dozens of women.
The ruling on the Epstein case is raising new questions this morning now into the status of his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell is imprisoned for 20 years for her role in a scheme to sexually exploit and abuse multiple minor girls with Epstein. But with Monday's ruling, thousands took to social media asking if the lack of a client list could have any impact on Maxwell's case.
Some say this new information could lead to Maxwell's lawyers making a new case to the parole board. And joining us now to talk about this ruling and its impacts, Chief Legal Analyst Rhodes. A lot to unpack here, but let's start with this. Are you shocked at all after hearing for months and months and months about this list that there apparently is no list?
Shocked would probably be an understatement. Let me go back a couple things and say, when Pam Bondi said that this is sitting on my desk, when asked specifically about a client list, I don't think there was an inference to the entire file. I don't think it was a reference to Epstein's, entire case. She was speaking about in response to a question about a list. Yes, I have the list. It's something that I review, is what she said, and it's sitting on my desk. After that February interview, they had social media folks come to the White House, and they gave them this kind of prop binders that said Epstein Files Phase 1, which was the assumption that there was a Phase 2 behind it. I know I learned in law school that you don't write a .1 unless you got a .2 behind it, right? So those are the types of things that kind of take me, well, why did we do this whole charade? Why did we do this theatrics if there was no list? I believe that there is something out there that there was maybe more pushback. I mean, obviously you saw what Elon Musk said in the social media responses when he had his little fight with the president over the last couple months, that he believed that he was on there. I'm not into the rumor mill or anything like that, but I can say that it definitely is confusing. That if you for months have said, even he ran on that, we will release the list once we get our hands on it. She's clarified it. A lot of other folks, his other personal attorney that now works with the administration, Elena Haba, she said the same thing, that yes, there's a list, we're reviewing it, and once this is out, we will be the people of promises made, promises kept. They're all speaking as if they've seen a list at some point. But now it's not there at all. I mean, so I think it leaves us with more questions than anything, but I am not surprised that we didn't receive it. Most of the things they released when they made the promises of releasing it were things that were already in the public domain, stuff from the court reports, documentation that we already knew about. So it was not any big release. The list was something that folks were looking forward to seeing, and obviously they were disappointed by not receiving it.
And before we get to Ghislaine Maxwell and how this could affect her charges, it wasn't just the client list. Apparently, Bondi also said a trove of recordings. So you've got lawyers, you've got law enforcement officials saying, we don't know anything about any of that stuff. So is all this now dead, or will it resurface again? Can someone try to force a hand of, wait, I want to hold Pam Bondi's feet to the fire. What were you talking about in February? Can someone force them to reveal if there's something or not, or are we done with it?
That's that transparency issue that you would talk about. And so obviously you would say automatically I would submit a FOIA request to see the communication that you were talking about in the past during that time. I want to see your emails, text messages that relate and respond to this. Then the government will come right back and say, A, national security, B, privilege, so they would have a response to you being able to even get access to that. But that's why we have these FOIA things in place to ensure that if you do want to hold your government to a transparency standard, to be able to say you've said something, well, let me now go back and backtrack you and, see if I can support the things or validate what you have been saying. This is something I think that's all that you can do. I don't think there's anything illegal about making statements that are kind of misleading. It just doesn't seem genuine. It seems for sure disingenuous, but I don't think there were any violations, no ethical violations in terms of, all right, I'm making this as my official capacity and now I have to roll them back. What I can say is I thought it was strange is that she blamed the in New York headquarters branch of the FBI for failing to turn over a lot of that information that you talked about the tapes and the other things. And so she really didn't say it didn't exist. She's just saying they're not giving it to me. I'm confused. Are all these folks siloed off right now? Because if they are working under one administration, it's not like they're talking to other countries. You're working within your own administration. You should be able to get the information that you want.
Oh, you should. But obviously that's not happening. Khalif, as far as Ghislaine Maxwell, right, she was convicted in 2022, and they said that she recruited, groomed, and ultimately abused victims known to Epstein under the age of 18. Does this change anything? Because she still took part in the grooming. It's just a question of who were the clients they went to.
I don't think it has any bearing on her case, and it's crazy because I would get clients like this that not specific to this case, but once that some new piece of evidence pops up or, there's outrage about something regarding their case, they're instantly saying, well, man, do I got a new opportunity to file? Do I got an opportunity to appeal? In a situation like this, if she was charged in or convicted with maintaining or producing a list, and then you find out that there's no list, yeah, that'd be problematic, but that wasn't what she was charged with.
Right.
She was charged with grooming and participating in this solicitation and prostitution for underage children, which is totally different. And I think to the further point regarding the list, if you got the tapes, if you have the videos, you can probably compile a list of anybody that was on any of that evidence. So that information is there because we know it was used in this trial. So there's something there. It just hasn't maybe been compiled in a manner in which we want to see it. And it maybe wasn't compiled by Epstein.
Yeah, maybe more questions than answers. We'll have to see. Khalif, thanks. Appreciate that.
Breaking news overnight, President Trump wants to reveal more about Jeffrey Epstein's prosecution. His social media post is asking the Justice Department to release grand jury testimony transcripts.
Attorney General Pam Bondi responded, saying they'll go to court to ask permission to unseal the normally secret files. However, this is not the full document drop that much of his base is demanding. D.C. correspondent Raquel Martin reports that it's creating a rift within the Republican Party.
But he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about.
When it comes to the Epstein files, the White House is accusing its usual foes of fanning the flames.
Democrats have now seized on this.
Democrats have indeed.
What is the Trump administration hiding?
But argue the Trump administration brought this on itself, first by flaunting a potential client list, only for the DOJ last week to conclude one never existed.
Democrats didn't put this into the public domain.
But it's not just Democrats piling on. A growing number of Republicans are calling on the Department of Justice to release the report.
I don't know why we would hold anything back.
Missouri Republican Senator Josh Hawley says the American people deserve to know the facts.
They have a lot. I mean, they prosecuted Epstein himself. They prosecuted his longtime associate.
The White House says it's up to Attorney General Pam Bondi.
If the Attorney General and the Department of Justice and the FBI have any more credible evidence in regards to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, they should put that forward.
In the meantime, patience is waning online among the president's supporters. Thursday, sources told The Hill House Speaker Mike Johnson is considering a measure to support the release of the Epstein files, and Democrats appear open to the idea.
To demand that the American people get the transparency that they deserve.
In Washington, Raquel Martin.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says his chamber will not vote this summer on a resolution to release the government's files on Jeffrey Epstein. Johnson says he wants to give the Trump administration time to release the documents on its own before congressional action. More lawmakers are calling for the administration to release records on the billionaire sex offender who died in jail in 2019. South Carolina Congressman Ralph Norman says people who want to see those records should be patient. Tonight, he spoke with Chief Political Correspondent Andy Weber about the files, cuts for public broadcasters, and a possible run for governor.
During our conversation, Ralph Norman renewed his call for release of any files the government has on Jeffrey Epstein. At the same time, he argued the public needs to give the White House time.
People forget this administration has only been in office now for what, 4 months, 5 months, and they're going to release the information.
York County Congressman Ralph Norman is speaking with Queen City News 1 week after congressional Democrats attempted to pass a resolution calling for the release of all government files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Norman says he too wants to see the documents released, but argued Democrats' motive was disingenuous.
They made a big deal out of, maybe some disagreements between Dan Bongino and others, but I'm confident at the end of the day that we'll know everything about Epstein.
The renewed focus on Epstein and his crimes comes as the Wall Street Journal published text from a birthday letter allegedly written by President Trump to Epstein.
Do you have any concerns there between a connection between Mr. Epstein and the president?
Well, let's let it get out. I mean, he is the president, but how about all the others? I've heard high-profile people.
Late last week, Congress also approved more than $1 billion in cuts for public broadcasters PBS and NPR. Norman dismissed concerns that some rural stations providing news and essential weather information would close.
Well, it's like every other business that has to trim operations. Now, sure, it could affect some, but I tell you, where there's a need in the free enterprise system, it'll be met.
As for Ralph Norman's political future, he has said he is considering a run for South Carolina governor. He plans to announce his decision at an event this coming Sunday. Andy Weber, Queen City News.
The judge is now turning down the Justice Department's request to release the grand jury transcripts in the sex trafficking case against the late Jeffrey Epstein. So the convicted sex offender died in jail awaiting trial, while his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, is now serving 20 years in prison for helping Epstein with his alleged crimes. According to the judge's ruling, though, no witnesses testified during the grand jury hearing, only an FBI agent who had no direct knowledge of the facts of the case and whose testimony was just mostly a personal account as to what could not be supported by evidence. The judge says the transcripts pale in comparison to the evidence that the Justice Department possesses. DOJ officials are now declining to comment, according to the Associated Press. Bank of America facing a new lawsuit accused of financially supporting Jeffrey Epstein's alleged sex trafficking ring. So the lawsuit now follows settlements reached with other institutions, including J.P. Morgan. Chief Political Correspondent Andy Weber has all the details.
They can just turn over the records to the Democrats right now because we're demanding that.
With Jeffrey Epstein's well-known financial connections, lawmakers in Washington have long said they want to investigate what role the country's largest banks may have played in standing up or financing a sex trafficking enterprise. Just last week, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin, demanded several banks, including Charlotte-based Bank of America, hand over any records of business with Epstein.
We know that there were $1.5 billion worth of suspicious financial transactions that were flagged by the banks.
And now Bank of America finds itself in the crosshairs of a lawsuit. An unnamed female plaintiff accuses the bank of supporting and profiting off of Epstein's operation. The financial company is being sued for its alleged ties to the sex offender. In that lawsuit filed Wednesday, the plaintiff accuses the bank of knowingly accepting deposits from Epstein that were tied to his notorious sex trafficking operation. She also alleges B of A earned interest, commissions, and service fees from the operation's revenue. While the suit is seeking an unspecified amount in damages, Reuters reports that a $290 million settlement was recently reached with J.P. Morgan over their alleged ties to Epstein. We did reach out to Bank of America for their reaction to this lawsuit, but a spokesperson declined to comment. Reporting in Uptown, I'm Andy Weber, Queen City News.
Newly released emails calling into question what President Trump knew about Jeffrey Epstein's alleged relationship with underage girls. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released the emails yesterday. Those 3 emails show Epstein's correspondence with his associate Ghislaine Maxwell and columnist and author Michael Wolff.
One email says the president spent hours at Epstein's house with one of the victims. The White House says Democrats are selectively releasing documents to specifically target President Trump. A House vote for the full release of the Epstein files is expected sometime next week.
Joining us now, our chief legal analyst, Congressman Rhodes, to break this down. I want to read one of them from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein, where he says there's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Are you interested in this? So it could be potentially implicating, but what do you make of these emails? Do they mean anything? Do they not mean anything? Because I feel like we go back and forward on this all the time.
Finish him sounds like a Mortal Kombat reference. That's
Does.
the first thing I thought about when I read that. Like, what are we playing? It came here. This is life. But no, it reminds me of one of my favorite poems of "If you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you." That's "If" by Kipling. I think about that with this moment. Everyone is blaming someone else, and everyone is losing their mind right now. First, you have Trump saying this is a Democratic hoax. Why? Because Democrats released a few of these emails. So Republicans, in response, they released the whole thing. And what is that? That's a legal strategy. I'll just dump everything on you and hope that you get lost in these 20,000 emails. So folks are happy. They're clapping online that the Epstein files are released. These aren't really the Epstein files. These are the files that come from his estate. These aren't the files that everybody's been asking to get for the last year and a half. Those files are the ones that the Department of Justice are still holding on. Those are the files that require a vote. And we only get to that vote because now that state rep-elect was now sworn in last night. Now the vote can be forced. What I make of that is that that's political jockeying for position, finding a way to get in front of a position or get behind it or get beside of it. In this scenario, Wolff was jockeying position in the elite circles in New York, and he was advising some of the wealthiest people in the country. He's advising Epstein, hey, you already have people that are coming against you. Find a way to get out of this, and one way of getting out of this is burying Trump. That was a strategy. Obviously, it didn't work out.
Khalif, there's a lot of gossipy, unflattering descriptions of Trump by Epstein here, often mentioned, but never paired with a certain crime or anything that seems to be illegal, at least from what we're hearing. Is this a smoking gun, or is it just going to fall apart?
I don't think the smoking gun are in these files. I think the smoking gun are in the DOJ files. That you need those Department of Justice files to see if there is a gun. These, I won't say are red herrings like in law school to kind of distract you. They're not. There are things that are damaging, but there are not allegations of criminality. I mean, the only one that I saw in there, and I didn't read all 20,000, but I looked at a lot of them. The only one I saw that was troubling was where he talked about the victim that had alleged that Epstein had sexually assaulted her in the past, and saying that Trump had spent time with her, hours with her at his home alone. Okay, you want to kind of dig deeper in that, find out what that meant. If you were an investigator, you probably want to find out, well, how much time was he with this victim that was underage, that alleged that you assaulted her? That's something that I would want to know if I was an investigator, but not a instant, okay, this is criminality in or a conviction.
Okay, so a lot of people hoping, okay, we have these emails that we're seeing. Okay, now we have the potential for maybe more files will be released. What do you think the likelihood of that actually making any movement is?
Oh, you get a vote. I think there will be a vote, and I think there will be support. You'll have folks that on both sides of the aisle that will come out, and it puts Republicans and Democrats in a very unique situation to work together for the first time in an era that seems like no one wants to work together. You got right here South Carolina's own Nancy Mace, someone that's recently come out, supporting victims of sexual assault, victims of sex offense. She's now someone that's vocally saying, I'm going to support this measure. You wouldn't have got that a couple of months ago, but if you get the right issue and you can get folks that, normally would not come together, that's typically how you get a vote. And you get a vote to pass. I think you will get enough support behind this to get a full release. It's going to take time.
Khalif, the big question, though, is will there be any legal ramifications from the documents if they are released?
Oh, 100%. If there are things in those documents, not just, allegations of being present, but of criminality, statutory rape has no, statutory limit. And so there's no date of offense. You can't say, well, you've already met the limit, now we can't bring charges. If this happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, if there are allegations of something that happened and this person was underage, they could bring charges at any time. And so Would it be problematic because he's the sitting president? Yes. But would it stop an investigation from going forward? Not at all.
Quickly, Khalif, does the president have any power to stop it, to silence it, to keep it going?
Social media, I mean, and that's what he's doing now. I mean, he has the pulse of the people, and he's doing an excellent job of attempting to distract and turn this away from something else. I mean, the last 40 days with the government shutdown kept people's minds off of this. The moment the shutdown went away, we went right back to there. So he's continued to say over and over again, this is a Democratic hoax, this is a Democratic push. But right now, you got folks on both sides of the aisle that just want to see the receipts. Show me what's in there. If there's nothing in there, we can let it go.
All right.
We'll see.
Government is reopened, so we will see what comes of this and how quickly that happens. Khalif, thank you.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.